flow.
Welcome to episode 94 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. Thank you for watching and listening to us. No matter what platform you are doing that from, we always appreciate the support of GFP Nation. As of Monday, February 27th, 2023, the Toronto Maple Leafs are still in second place in the Atlantic Division behind the Boston Bruins. Toronto currently on pace for 112 points. Since our last podcast, they are a perfect 3-0. Ryan O'Reilly is fitting in pretty darn well. So we have a lot of things to go over. Ryan O'Reilly, the Leafs' current hot streak, Auston Matthews, and some big trades from around the NHL. But as big as all that news is, it is now officially time to welcome in my partner in crime, Mr. Michael Lepore. How you doing, man?
Anthony Bruno, is always very happy to be here. How am I doing? I am very tired. I'm sure everyone can hear that my voice sounds a little different today. It's because I've had 3 straight nights of very little sleep. My wife and I welcomed a little angel into the world, Carolina, who's now officially the world's smallest Leafs fan. Good news. I mean, since my wife went into labor, Leafs are 3-0-0. And for those wondering if I had the game on my phone while my wife was in labor, the answer is yes. The Blues game was on in the background to watch O'Reilly's first hat trick. My wife was okay with it. It was early phases of labor, so it was fine. But yeah, life's different, man. I went from shopping for jerseys and hockey swag to onesies with Bambi on it. So very blessed, very happy, and happy to do a show today. We're going to keep it going. Episode 94 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast. Bruno said before the show that he thinks he knows which one's coming. We didn't confirm which one he thought is on its way, but I think he's going to be right. Number 94, Leafs legend, Sergei Berezin.
Yes, there it is.
Fan favorite from the late 90s, early 2000s with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Cool story, man. I mean, you look up and you read these things about these players. Berezin was drafted in the 10th round. 10th round pick. The guy played 500 games in the NHL. His best season, 98-99 with the Toronto Maple Leafs, 37 goals. A 10th rounder scoring 37 goals. He now lives in Florida, like a lot of Russians do in their retirement from what I've seen. But Sergei Berezin, man, good little player.
Man, if you grew up in the 90s and became a Leaf fan in that era, Sergei Berezin was one of the guys.
Yeah, swag. He had the swag.
He had all the swag. But speaking of swag, nothing is more powerful than dad's swag.
Oh, jeez.
And Michael Lepore, you have it.
Thanks,
you have it in bunches right now, man. Congrats to you and your family on the birth of your baby girl. This might be the best episode yet. Even though you have no sleep.
Yeah.
And
we're purely raw.
You're ready to just go lie down on the couch. This is going to be a great episode. I feel it, Lepore.
Yeah, so the undefeated run with the birth of my daughter is going to go until the end of the season and into the playoffs for a 16-0 run. Perfect. God's going to bless me with that the year of 2023.
And I love how you were watching the game when your wife was in labor. That's a true
early signs. So yeah, early signs of labor. So what I mean by that is like we just got our room, just got our bed. She's just laying there, and it was on the phone. It wasn't real labor. We'll put it that way before everyone starts hating me, for watching the Leafs game while my wife's going into labor.
Fair enough.
While the doctor's yelling push, I'm cheering on Mitch Marner and Ryan O'Reilly.
You are a true glutton for punishment.
Lepore. Yes.
All right, man. Let's get right into this. So the Leafs are 3-0 since our last podcast.
Yeah.
With wins over the Buffalo Sabres, the Minnesota Wild, and the Seattle Kraken. And things are looking good. Ryan O'Reilly is fitting in very well. So the O'Reilly, Tavares, and Marner line combined for 13 points in the 6-3 win over Buffalo.
To celebrate Carolina's birth.
Just outstanding. And now O'Reilly, we saw last game against the Kraken, Sheldon Keefe moved him down to play with, well, I shouldn't say moved him down. He's in the same spot, but he moved Marner back with Matthews, and he put Tavares and Nylander with Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah.
So They're experimenting, and that's something we thought that they would do. I didn't think that they would stick with that same line from now until the end of the regular season and into the playoffs. And I still think we might see Ryan O'Reilly drop down to the third line at some point and center his own line with, I don't want to say, bad players or anything like that, but he's going to be on a little bit more of an island when they try that out. And I really do think they will try that out. But Lepore, what are your early impressions so far of how Ryan O'Reilly has fit in with the Toronto Maple Leafs?
I don't even want to say pleasantly surprised. I'm because that's kind of taking away from my expectations, but I'm very happy about it, man. And here comes like Homer Leafs fan talking about the trade they just made. But when I say that, I'm referring to the nerves that I had about the deal. And I'm sure that a lot of Leafs fans had, because if we're being honest, O'Reilly hasn't been the same player this year as far as the statistics go. So, the Leafs make a deal, like what's going to happen? And we've been burned in the past with deals like Foligno that blew up in our face. So I'm stoked, man. I think it looks great. And to me, the biggest thing, and it's been a criticism of the Leafs for years now, is that they have too many of the same player. And when people say too many of the same player, they're referring to that silky smooth talent, right? Whereas immediately you could see that O'Reilly's different. He brings a different element, but he still is capable of lighting it up as he has. Where he's going to end up in the lineup, that's a good question, Bruno. And we'll get into that in a bit, but I think that's a juicy topic because there's a lot of combinations, and I think there could be a lot of good debate as to where he should place in the lineup and who he should be put with. What are your early impressions of ROR?
I've been really impressed with O'Reilly so far, and I remember when the trade first happened, I had my doubts in terms of is this enough offensive firepower? Could the Leafs have used Patrick Kane or Timo Meier? And again, I'm still on the record as saying I think Timo Meier would have been like an ideal fit. And we'll get into that as well. He was traded to the New Jersey Devils yesterday, and we'll get into some other trades from around the NHL later in the podcast. But he has provided some offensive punch so far. And another thing I mentioned on the last show is that you have to be a complete idiot to think that he wouldn't fit in with this team. He's going from a St. Louis Blues team that is now out of the race, unloading all their players, aren't really motivated right now. And now you drop him into a situation where he's playing on a top 5 team in the NHL. He's playing with guys like John Tavares and Mitch Marner and William Nylander. And I'm sure at some point, maybe he's even going to get a chance to play with Auston Matthews as they experiment towards the end of the season. He's going to be motivated. His offensive production is going to improve. Everything across the board is going to improve, and that's what you're seeing so far. He has 5 points in 5 games as a Leaf. He had a hat trick against the Buffalo Sabres. He's doing things on both sides of the puck, which he's always done. He's winning a ton of faceoffs. I mean, this guy's fitting in like a glove. Now,
what do you want? Yeah, exactly.
It's like, what more could you ask for from Ryan O'Reilly at this point? Is he the most explosive player? No, he's not. Does he have the best hands in the league? No. Does he have the greatest shot? No, but he does so many little things and finds a way to be in the right spot at the right time. And we saw that in that Buffalo game, right? Yeah. Like Mitch Marner was obviously a huge part of that hat trick, some of the passes he made to O'Reilly, but O'Reilly's hockey sense and just, like I said, his ability to just know where the play is going. He's really good at it, man. Because when you watch him, like eye test wise, he's not like an explosive player. He's not jumping off the page. He's not making like these crazy dangles and these, unbelievable plays. He's kind of like a John Tavares type player.
Very winger John Tavares is what he looks like. Yeah.
So it's like you said, Lepore, it's like, what else could you ask for out of this guy? I think it's been great so far. And yeah, in terms of the question of where he's going to end up now, that line with O'Reilly, Marner, and John Tavares looked incredible against Buffalo. And I know
the
it's
GTA
Buffalo
line.
Sabres.
Yeah, the GTA line is out.
The all Ontario, the all GTA line.
Yeah.
That looked awesome. Now, against the Kraken, they had him playing with Tavares and Nylander, and the line, I don't want to say it was like not as effective. I mean, any line is not going to be as effective when you're comparing it to a line that put up 13 points in one game.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to continue to experiment, man. I think, like I said, he's going to get a chance to be the third line center. Maybe they're going to even try him out on the first power play unit. I don't really see that happening. I think he's just going to stay on the second power play unit. But Sheldon Keefe has about, a 24-game runway here, however many games they have left to figure this out with Ryan O'Reilly.
To the point about figuring it out, I mean, we're fans, so we're going to discuss what's best and what Keefe's going to decide, but he can change it all the time. He can change it based on the opponent. He can change it based on the situation. You're playing Tampa in game 1, winning is maybe a different lineup than in game 4 when you're trailing. So that's why I really like the deal again, because it provides the versatility. I'm going to sound like a school child here, but this is a genuine question. Okay. And comment down below if you have other answers, because while Bruno was speaking, this question came to mind and I was trying to think of other guys. As far as possible line mates go in the National Hockey League, like looking around the league at the star players, is there a player you'd want to play with more than Mitch Marner? And that to me, that doesn't mean he's the best player, but I'm having a hard time thinking of someone who I'd 100% be with that guy or even make it a debate for Marner, because he's good defensively. He skates, he distributes. So you'll score. He opens things up. He's creative. Well, what's better than that? Right. I mean, because I guess at the end of the day too, most of the big superstars are superstars because they score a heck of a lot of goals. And I mean, guys who score goals are great, but in terms of wanting to play with them, it's not the most ideal situation in the world. And going back, I'm pretty sure it went public that part of the pitch to Tavares when he was deciding where to go in that Leafs boardroom, they said, you're going to be playing with Mitch Marner. And that was appealing to him. And we saw what that line did in that first game. And again, we saw from Marner last night, he had 3 assists last night again. So he distributes the puck and great passes, making goals easy for other players. I guess that's the best way to put it. I think Mitch Marner makes your life easier as a line mate. Not that it becomes a walk in the park, depending on your opponent, but I don't know if there's another player who makes your life easier more than he does. Can you think of anyone?
Yeah, I mean, the only guy I would put above him is really McDavid.
But even McDavid, Bruno, McDavid's a better player than Marner, but does McDavid make me better?
Yeah, I mean, I think McDavid's a hell of a playmaker, but I do see where you're coming from, that maybe McDavid, he's a better goal scorer than Mitch Marner. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just it's the McDavid show. He's just all right, I'm just going to go through the entire team right
exactly
now, right? And listen, he's made life very easy for Zach Hyman this season.
That is true.
Who's having a great season. So I still think, just out of respect to McDavid, you put him number 1. But yeah, in terms of a pure distributor and a guy that plays on both sides of the puck, is very responsible defensively, that is always looking to pass first.
Yeah.
There's really, I can't really think of another player, honestly. And Oilers fans are going to, continue to chirp us and say, how about Draisaitl? He's one of the best passers in the league.
Yeah, no.
But really, I would put Marner ahead of him, just in terms of unselfishness, pass first, his ability to play defense. I think he's ahead of Draisaitl in that respect. Draisaitl, obviously a better goal scorer than Marner as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, Marner's always looking to get his teammates involved. He's got, I believe, 20 goals and 54 assists this season.
I'm sure people are screaming Patrice Bergeron. That's another one, top of the list. Guy you'd want. He's past his prime now, but people know my point.
And with Bergeron, he's obviously considered one of the best two-way players in the world, but as a passer, he is not on the level of Mitch Marner. But like you said, I think he's definitely a guy that you would love to play with because of all of the things that he does, making your life easier, as you said.
One guy that came to mind for me, and I've seen him live a couple times this year, since he plays for the Sens, and again, past his prime. So in his prime, I'm sure he'd be at the top of this list, was Claude Giroux. A guy who can do it all, sees the ice, he'll muck it up, he'll score, he'll distribute. He's another guy that'd be near the top of the list. And even if it's not now in his prime, 100% he was.
Oh yeah, that's a great name as well. And it just goes to show how valuable Mitch Marner is. And, we always view Auston Matthews as the heart and soul of the Maple Leafs. He's coming off his 60-goal season. Since Matthews entered the league, he's essentially the best goal scorer in the world. But Mitch Marner, man, we've seen it time and time again. John Tavares' first year with the Leafs, playing with Mitch Marner, he puts up 47 goals. Last year was the first time, really, that Marner and Matthews primarily played together. And sure, you can even go back to the shortened COVID season as well, where they were together. Matthews had 41 goals and I believe it was like 54 games that he played because he missed a couple of games. And then he puts up 60 last season playing with Marner.
Crazy.
And now his numbers are down a little bit, playing primarily with William Nylander this season. Yeah. So it just goes to show, man, how much value this guy is providing the Toronto Maple Leafs. No matter who Mitch Marner plays with, they produce. It's just as simple as that.
You're going to get paid.
It's time for a quick break because we have some breaking news. Manscaped is now selling beard products. That's right. They've gone from waist to face to help you replace that bulky razor with their brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Manscaped helped you get the golden rod of a Greek god, and now they've created the best tools for you to turn heads with a clean, perfectly groomed, and conditioned beard. Finally, tame your mane by going to manscaped.com and using our exclusive promo code GFP20 for 20% off plus free shipping. Lepore, just when you think Manscaped has done it all, now they come out with beard products. This company never misses the mark.
That's right, Anthony Bruno. Manscaped has crushed it with the Lawnmower 4.0. And I really think what they're doing here is they're looking out for their clientele, because I know a lot of you are fucking gross and you've used that Lawnmower 4.0 on your face, which is not cool. So keep going with it. Follow Manscaped, get the beard trimmer, go to the Manscaped website, GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping.
You said it, man. Manscaped knows exactly what's going on. They don't want people using the Lawnmower 4.0 in places they should not be using it. So do the right thing. Go to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping using our code GFP20 to grab the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using the promo code GFP20. So speaking of Auston Matthews, Lepore, he's not having his best season.
No.
He just scored 2 goals last night against the Seattle Kraken, and lo and behold, who was on his line? Mr. Mitch Marner.
Yeah,
they were
trying
reunited.
out for the Blue Jays with one of those goals.
Yeah, the puck that he batted out of midair, that was sick.
Yeah, nice goal.
That was a great Matthews goal. But, you know, it just goes back to what we talked about. Like, he moves away from Marner most of the season, and his numbers are down a little bit. And listen, Auston Matthews is an elite player. He can play with anybody. And Mitch Marner can play with anyone as well. But they were reunited last night. Matthews scored a couple of goals. That line was buzzing all night. Is there another reason that his numbers are down this season, Lepore, besides not playing with Mitch Marner? And is this being a little under talked about right now? Because, you know, he had one of the greatest seasons of the last 20 years last year, scoring 60 goals. One of only 3 players in the last 15 to 20 years to hit that mark outside of Ovechkin and Steven Stamkos. And right now, Auston Matthews in 53 games has 28 goals, 31 points, or 31 assists for 59 points. So what's going on, man?
I think when it comes to topics like this, people often try to find one reason as to why that's why a player is not performing. And it goes the other way too. One reason why a player is performing, but I'd like to think of it in the way that multiple things can be true. So right off the bat, you said not playing with Mitch Marner anymore. So, I mean, that's going to take away some goals. I think I'm in the camp, and I think a lot of Leafs fans are, that Matthews hasn't been at 100% for the entirety of the season, whether it was his wrist or ribs or it was an ankle he hurt for a while. I think it was. I might be mistaken about that. So he's been fighting some stuff. That's no secret. And I think that comes into play, especially with even beyond his goals. We haven't seen him take over games like he did the previous 2 seasons. Like, he would dominate games. You get in the zone, you could just tell he was dialed in. His first shift, you knew, here we go tonight. Matthews ate his Wheaties. I think there's also, I mean, again, more factors. He's better defensively now. Like, you watch him, the focus is more so even than it was before. And he's always been a good 200-foot player, but you see the focus is really there. And if I'm not mistaken, he's leading forwards in the NHL in block shots. That's a big stat, man, for a guy who scores goals like that. To have that number. So that's the reason why. The other thing too is, and Chris Johnston talked about this, I remember, before the season started, not necessarily this would cause Matthews to drop statistically, but when it comes to that stuff now, he doesn't give a shit. Like, and I mean, that's giving a lot of credit, saying he's got he lacks the ego and he's got the security in himself to not really care what his numbers are because he just wants to win. But I think it's like that extra motivation is like, no. What matters is when the regular season ends. So he's really dialed into that. And what I'm going to segue into is I think, and comment down below what you think about this. This may be controversial. I think there's a tad of load management going on in terms of where they put him in, even in himself. Like, I'm not going to go all out this shift, this period, this game. Again, save my body, make it ripe for when the time is right. So again, that could be loaded. And you could say, well, then why isn't it affecting other players and why Matthews? Like, who knows? Who knows why? And again, they run the numbers on this stuff and what should be done. But I think there's a list of factors, man. Marner not being on his line, him achieving what he achieved and not really caring as what stats show anymore. Man, the guy's pretty much won everything now except for being successful in the playoffs. Like, historically, we're not going to look at Auston Matthews any different if he would have won, 6 Rockets or 4 Rockets. Like, we know who he is. What's going to get him remembered is his name on the Stanley Cup. So I think there's a bunch of reasons. But to put the cherry on top of this rant I went on, I just hope he snaps the fuck out of it before the playoffs start. Jeez, because if this keeps going, a lot of the things I listed are gone if we don't see it in the playoffs. Because while they're not going to load manage him in the playoffs, mentally he can't be checked out in the playoffs. He's got to produce. And then I'll finish with this, Bruno, and then I'll let you rant. How much of it is just simple, unrealistic expectations? Like you said, his last 2 seasons were historically good. 2 of the greatest goal scoring seasons in the history of the league. And he may hit 40 this year. 40 goals. 40 goals. And when you're paid what he's paid, you could say, well, he should get more, which is true. Or you could say, I expect that. But what I'd say to that is even, okay, he gets 40. Let's say he finishes with 40. Well, you couldn't stick up your nose at 50. So yeah, he got 40. I mean, the expectation can't be 50 goals every year is my point. That's ridiculous. I mean, that except for Mike Bossy, I mean, there was no one you could rely on for that, and the Wayner. But yeah, I mean, again, a million reasons why. And when I close my eyes at night and pray, I just hope he snaps out of it by the time we play Tampa Bay in the first round.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. If he can get rolling right before the playoffs start, then people are going to be happy and they're not going to be worried about anything. And maybe he's going to continue it. Maybe this game against Seattle last night is the start of the tear that we've seen Matthews go on countless times before, where he rips off like 16 goals in 15 games.
Exactly.
Right? Like, that's what we're all waiting for. That hasn't happened yet this season. But you said it, man. Right now, he's on pace to score 40 goals in 75 games because he's missed 7 games this year. Over an 82-game season, he's scoring at a 43-goal pace.
Exactly.
And that's still pretty darn good. I mean, literally 95% of the NHL would take that as like a career season. But for Auston Matthews,
where's points at compared to, I like, because everyone always brings up his goals because he's getting more assists this year, is he not? Like, I think even his points are probably pretty close to where they were last year.
Yeah, like looking at an 82-game pace points-wise, he's on pace for a 91-point season.
Last year he had 100. It was like 104.
I believe it was 106.
So yeah, okay.
106 points last year.
Okay.
He's missed games this year. And listen, he missed games last year too. He missed 9 games last season.
People forget that with the 60-goal thing, eh? I remember like noticing that throughout the season. Crazy.
He had 60 goals in 73 games. 106 points in 73 games. So you look at that over an 82-game season, that's 119 points over a full 82-game season. And the same thing this year, like he's missed 7 games, but he's scoring at a 92-point pace. Like that's still pretty darn good.
Yeah, exactly.
But listen, Auston Matthews is not an idiot. And I love that point that you made that he's focused more on his defensive game because he's won everything you can win now. He's won the Hart. He's won multiple Rocket Richards. He's won the Lester B. Pearson Award, the award that is judged on by his fellow players as who's the best player in the league, right? He's won that. He's arguably been even a Selke contender, even though he hasn't finished as a finalist for the Selke Trophy. You watch this guy defensively, he's incredible, man. And this year, it does seem, just eye test wise, it does seem, and even looking at the stats too, it does seem that he has been more focused on the defensive end. And it goes back to this point I'm trying to make here, is that he is not an idiot. He knows what he is going to be judged on. And it's kind of like basketball players as well, right? Like LeBron James and some of the best players of all time, they know that the thing that they are judged on is championships.
Oh, in the NBA, you're judged on championships?
It's about championships at this point for Auston Matthews. And sure, you could even laugh at that and say he hasn't won a round. Yeah, he hasn't won a round.
Exactly.
But he's won everything you can win, essentially, in the game of hockey, besides winning a playoff series and winning a Stanley Cup. And it seems to be his main focus right now. And that's what I love to see. Looking at some stats, Lepore, you said it. He leads all forwards in block shots this season.
Yeah.
And even looking at takeaways on NHL.com, did you know that Mitch Marner leads all forwards in takeaways this season?
Where's Nylander? I remember Nylander was high too, wasn't he?
Nylander is 6th in the league, and Matthews is 10th in the league.
That's crazy.
So 3 Leaf forwards are in the top 10 in the NHL in takeaways this season. Mitch Marner, William Nylander, and Auston Matthews, who are considered like their best offensive players, are also all in the top 10 in takeaways among forwards in the NHL.
Yeah, and we saw a heck of a takeaway from Willie in the overtime the other night.
Oh, one thing, filthy.
One thing you notice, and how we often talk on this show, how the game has changed. You really see it when you're at a game live. There's almost no hitting anymore compared to like when we were kids, like crash against the boards every few seconds. There was always forechecking, hard hit. Now it's about the stick play, and you really see it. And it swung. It used to be that third line bruiser or that defenseman who would remove the player from the puck with a hit. Now you see the skilled guys because they're good with their stick. Like I notice live all the time, like a random skilled player, even for a random team. It's like, wow, he's really good stick checking because he has that ability. And I'm sure that's a thing that the kids are trained. Kids begin training at a very young age. But think of that perspective, man, from like stepping outside the box for a second. 3 players. 3 beyond who they are, 3 skilled players like that are in the top 10 of the league when it comes to removing the puck from the opposition. That's crazy. It goes to show how much the game has really changed.
And you could see it with their stick play. Like, not even looking at the stats, you watch any Leaf game and you watch Auston Matthews and William Nylander and Mitch Marner go into the corners. They're wizards with their sticks, man.
They always come out with it. They're always the guy who just gets the you're almost like expecting it when they go in the corner for a 50-50. Matthews is going to come out with it. Yeah.
And that's why I always laughed when everyone pegged Zach Hyman as like the grinder who always went in the corners and got the puck for Auston Matthews and some of these other guys. And I'm like, guys, sure, that's true to a certain extent. But if you watch the Leafs play, Auston Matthews has been doing this literally like since the day he walked into the NHL. He has been a wizard with his stick and removing the puck from the opposition. And he's been doing it seriously, literally since the day he walked into the league. And that's why I always laughed at when Mike Babcock would come on and do his post-game press conferences and say, you know, this line it's chugging along the way it is because of Zach Hyman. He's the one who goes and retrieves the puck. No, Auston Matthews goes and gets the puck. That's who gets the puck all the time. Anyway, so I love to see stats like this. Like, those guys have not only have they been producing offensively, their defensive numbers are also very good.
Yeah. Hockey's such a weird thing, right? It's so funny how we can't just use our eyes to see what's happened. And we just go on these preconceived notions of what hockey used to be. Like, Hyman's the guy who goes in the corner because he's big and he's less talented and he swings his arms when he plays. It's like, oh, the skill guy is soft. No, actually watch. You'll see that the skilled guy is the guy taking the puck, getting the puck, removing possession from the other team. It's just funny, man. We can't get rid of it. And when my buddy made a point the other day, it's hilarious. And comment down below what you think about this one. And I won't mention any names. Not that we mention any names, but is it just me, or does everyone think when there's an ugly guy with scars, big nose, whatever, it's automatically he's a grinder, he works hard, he hits everyone? That's always the case. A guy who's like equipment.
It's really what it is.
It's what it is. It's 100%. Even things like, oh, where he's from. Oh, there's a Toronto kid who plays on the third line, whose jersey's baggy and he wears a weird bucket. Oh, he's the man. No, are you watching? He sucks. Like I don't get it, man. Or again, on the flip side, the European. Oh, he's soft. you're watching, he ain't soft. He's going in the corners. He just why he has long hair. Like you think he's soft. It's just hockey's funny, man. Hockey's so deceiving. And we've talked about this in the past. This exact topic totally plays into it of guys who actually remove their opposition from the puck.
Yeah, there's so many stereotypes in hockey going back over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And I think you nailed it, man. I think the perfect example of this is William Nylander.
100%.
He's always been viewed as the soft player of all the big four Leafs, Marner, Matthews, Tavares, and Nylander. He's viewed as the soft guy who doesn't go into the corners and doesn't go to the front of the net. Have you watched William Nylander over the last 3 to 4 seasons? He is an absolute monster down low. You know who he reminds me of? Is Peter Forsberg. This dude, his ability to just keep the puck away from you, to use his lower body strength to shield you. He goes to the front of the net. He scores goals from everywhere. Just watch William Nylander. I never want to hear anyone put the word soft and William Nylander in the same sentence.
Yeah. Was it last year he led the league in net front goals, or he was near the top?
He was top 5
in
that category.
Yeah. Oh, so he doesn't go in the dirty area. He doesn't get punished by he's in front. Those are the numbers. He's scoring. They're not stopping him. So yeah, the whole Nylander thing is such an example of that in Toronto because again, European, the long hair, he wears sick gear. Unlike I said, that third line bruiser who doesn't. It's funny. And even too, right? It becomes a slippery slope. So let's say Nylander does have a lazy play. The camera's on it.
Exactly.
And then they're talking about
overanalyzed.
It's overanalyzed. Okay, so it happens to the toughest guy in the league who we all love as well. I mean, come on. And there's always that funny thing, right? I'm sure the players talk about this. A goal is scored. And then they show the team celebrating, the fist bumps, all that. And then it'll go to the player of the team who scored on, the player who fucked up. And it's just one of those things like, oh, it was Nylander. Well, every goal they show someone. So this time they just showed Nylander because he was down low and maybe he got beat. But Nylander, it's all his fault. Look at him. This proves the point. No, it's hilarious.
Yeah, they use one play out of 50 plays to try and demonstrate that a player sucks defensively or they're soft on the puck or whatever. I remember John Tavares last season. I can't remember if it was a morning skate or a post-game interview that he did, but he talked about Nylander and he said that this guy doesn't get enough credit for how strong he is.
I'm sure. Oh, Instagram. Go on his Instagram, man. He's got some pics on the beach. He's a tank, man. He's a unit, that guy.
Yeah. I mean, Nylander, for whatever reason, and I shouldn't say for whatever reason, we know the reasons why he's gotten such a bad rap in Toronto and why he's been the whipping boy for so many years. And then you go back to the whole contract situation and he held out.
Yeah.
That's true. Now he has one of the best contracts in the league and he's probably going to command $9+ million now on his next deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I love how the narrative has completely changed now and that people are finally opening their eyes to the player that he is. And even looking at the stats right now, Marner leads the team in scoring. Nylander, 72 points in 60 games. And he's got 33 goals. So Nylander right now is on pace for 98 points.
Is it just me or Willie's always healthy?
That's another thing too. I don't want to jinx it, but you're
right.
right.
Yeah, you don't want to say it out loud.
He is always in the lineup, man.
Yeah.
Always in the lineup.
Yeah.
So shout out to William Nylander.
Yeah.
All right, Lepore.
Why not?
We got to talk about some big trades.
We do.
That have happened around the NHL. So Kyle Dubas always does his work well before the trade deadline. And he did it again this season, picking up Ryan O'Reilly. But now we're seeing other teams do the exact same thing. People are not waiting until the actual trade deadline. They're not waiting until the 11th hour at 2 p.m., the day of the deadline. This year's trade deadline falls on Friday, March 3rd, but we've already seen a lot of big names off the board. And over the weekend, it got pretty wild. Mm-hmm. You had the whole Patrick Kane to the Rangers thing. That isn't official yet, but it's basically official based on all the reports, not only that me and Lepore have seen, but I'm sure that all of you have seen who are listening to us right now. So we have Patrick Kane, who looks like he's on his way to the New York Rangers. And then the big fish, Timo Meier, traded to the New Jersey Devils. And that was a big, complicated package. I don't even want to get into the whole thing, but there was a lot involved in that Timo Meier deal. And then one of the most head scratching moves I think I've seen in recent memory. The Tampa Bay Lightning trading Cal Foote and 5 draft picks for Tanner Jeannot.
Psycho.
That also happened. So Lepore, just your thoughts on some of these moves that we've seen. Has the balance of power changed with any of these moves that have happened over the weekend?
It's tough to say no. I mean, my immediate reaction is, yeah, because you see these names and these teams got better and they're going for it. But I still go into that it doesn't make that much of a difference in a 7-game series. If you're talking about the power a player will have with their contribution, like the whole wins above replacement thing over an 82-game season, it's significant. In these 7-game series where anything can happen, as far as the result goes, they're not that significant. I don't know if we talked about it last week. I think with the O'Reilly and Achari additions, the Leafs went from, on one of the models, a 54% chance to beat Tampa to like a 56% chance to beat Tampa. So like, and that's adding a lineup guy and a good player. So I don't know, like if there's a big swing of power, I will say it, and I may get burned for this. I really may get burned for this, but let's make the assumption that the Rangers are getting Patrick Kane. That makes me think they're not going to win. It's just that old thing, man, that these teams that go crazy at the deadline, it makes me think they're messing stuff up a little bit. They're going to run into a hot goalie in the second round and lose, and you're done. I just think it's more often than not the teams that just stay the course that make the long runs. The Jeannot deal, that's perplexing, man. That one's really perplexing. Tampa never makes bad deals, and I'm not calling this a bad deal because, you know, I always say it's up to the team what they're willing to give up. My assumption is that they're going to sign him, or that they can see themselves signing him. I mean, I don't know if they'd give up that kind of package if they didn't feel that way, but that's a lot to give up for a guy who does what that player does. Timo Meier to the Devils is nice. I think that, I mean, he's a great player. All the advanced stats guys are posting about how much of a difference maker he is. But again, I mean, we'll see how much of a difference it makes. Because, and again, little small things. The Rangers make these deals and they get way better. They go into the playoffs and Chris Kreider sprains his knee. Well, that's it now. I mean, you just replace Kreider with another good player because you are where you were at. And I'm not saying these teams shouldn't make these moves. I'm just saying that's the margin of difference here, right? So we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. But I got to say, the teams making deals like this, and the word I always use is so loud in your face. And I told you, Bruno, I said last week, I didn't want a fucking thing to do with Patrick Kane. I did not want that. I know the media wanted it, and Biz from Spin Chicklets was all over.
I kind of wanted it too.
Yeah, I know you wanted it for the excitement. Bruno's all about the drama in Toronto. But yeah, I didn't want it. And now, like, I see it with the Rangers, Tarasenko and Kane. You've totally changed. It's a lot. Like, you've totally changed your team, and you've changed them for the better. I just think it's like a weird mojo thing, man.
Well, we saw it last year with the Florida Panthers. The Panthers had one of the best offensive seasons of the last quarter century last year. Like, the entire team, all right, from top to bottom, was putting up insane numbers offensively. I think they had like 5 guys that had like over 75 points last year. Like, it was absurd. They had like Sam Reinhart playing on like the second and third line at times and had like an 80-point season. Like, it was crazy. They add Claude Giroux. Yep. They add Ben Sherrod at the trade deadline. They got embarrassed in the second round by Tampa. The top scoring team in the league, Lepore, had 3 goals against Tampa in the second round. 3. 1, 2, 3 against Tampa.
Wasn't even in the first round, if I remember correctly, they were down 2-1. They were down 2-1.
Yeah, they were playing the Capitals and had to come back. They were down in that series.
They were down 2-1, and in game 4, Florida was down by 1. They pulled their goalie, and Washington missed the net on an empty netter, and then Florida scored. So it was that close to being down 3-1 in the first round after all those additions. So yeah, man, like, I think it just goes back to I'm not saying teams should not make these moves. The actual impact on a result that happens in a 2-week series is very little. So
yeah, that's the thing. You see more of the impact over an 82-game season. Like, if the Rangers are able to keep Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko, which is honestly pretty unlikely, you're gonna see a way bigger impact over the course of 82 games for that team. But when it comes down to a 7-game series, and you look at the Metropolitan Division with the New Jersey Devils getting Timo Meier, who I think is incredible. Like this guy
he's a great
can
player.
score. He generates chances. He's physical. Yeah. He's a stud. All right. He's gonna provide so much value to that New Jersey Devils team. But if you play the Devils in the playoffs, like sure, you have Patrick Kane and Tarasenko now, but I don't know how much that's gonna move the needle now against this Devils team.
Yeah, 100%. I think where people miss the mark. And again, not that anyone you shouldn't get excited. Rangers fans, you should be very excited, and you should be happy to be a Rangers fan right now. I don't want people to think I'm feeling that way. But back what I said about actual like wins above replacement, I think people kind of get the thing in their mind that okay, we make the trade for star player X, that makes us 40 goals better, way better. No, he's replacing someone in the lineup, and there's only a certain amount of minutes to go around. If your first line winger, for example, scores 25 goals, he's 25 goal scorer, and then you insert, say, Patrick Kane, who say on a good year is at whatever, over 82 games, you're adding, say, 10 goals, or if he's got 40 goal scorer, you're adding 15 goals. So that's significant, 10 to 15 goals over the course of a season. But in a 7-game series, the guy goes cold. That's it. Yeah. Or it's like the difference is 1 goal. So, you just hope you get that 1 goal at the right time. So tough, man. Tough. And then that's why it's tough for these GMs to actually weigh out what's worth it to give up for these players.
Yeah, the margins are razor thin in the playoffs. I mean, look at the Leafs last year against Tampa. The Leafs were the only team besides Colorado in the Cup final to outscore Tampa in a 7-game series. And this is not even, last season. This is going back over Tampa's entire 3-year run to the Cup final.
I saw
They were only outscored in a series twice, I believe, by the Leafs and the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah.
The Leafs outscored them 24-23 and lost in 7 games by 1 goal.
If you want to get more depressed, look up that series against, it always comes back to this, hey guys, Gluttons For Punishment. Look up that series versus Tampa and look at Tampa's plus minus. They're all like -4, -5, -3, -4, because 5-on-5, the Leafs were winning. And it's obviously the power play went cold, but like you see stats like that. And if someone had showed you that before the series started, you'd be like, oh my God, we're going to win. We swept them. And no, you found a way to lose in 5, or 7, I should say. So sorry, guys.
Yeah, I mean, we can all cry ourselves to sleep just looking at some of the numbers in that Tampa Leafs series, because really the Leafs should have won that series based on the numbers, based on all those things that happened. It's almost impossible that the Leafs ended up losing that series. But anyway, Lepore, I want to talk about Tampa for a second, because
you're pumped.
Immediately when I saw this trade for Tanner Jeannot, I was like, what the hell are they doing? And listen, I know it's the Tampa Bay Lightning. I know they're arguably the smartest team in the league.
Yeah, it's hard to question.
They always figure out a way to make it work. Last year, they traded 2 first-round picks and 2 players for Brandon Hagel, who is now actually having a really good season. He's got 22 goals, 49 points in 59 games. I thought that was an overpay for Brandon Hagel, but he's been a good player for them. Right now, he is their 4th leading scorer, and I'm sure they're really happy with what he's doing. But when I saw this Tanner Jeannot deal, and listen, I actually like Tanner Jeannot. Like, he's physical. He's relatively young. He's 25 years old. He's got some scoring touch. He's going to be a member of their bottom 6 unit. I don't know. Maybe they have plans to move him up the lineup, and they think he has a little bit more offensive flair than what we're seeing this season, because this year he's only got 14 points. But last year he was a 40-point player. So he's got 14 points in 56 games this season. Last year for the Predators had 24 goals and 41 points. But the thing that drives me nuts, everyone, there's some people on Twitter, I shouldn't say everyone. People are like, oh, it's the Tampa Bay Lightning. Of course this was a great move. Instead of all of us chirping the Lightning, we should be like, what are they seeing that we're not?
Exactly.
But no, like, they traded 5 draft picks and Cal Foote, a former first-round pick, for Tanner Jeannot. Like, this is kind of crazy, is it not?
Like
it's
I always say,
overpay.
Bruno. Like I always say, imagine it was the Leafs. Imagine 5 picks for a third line.
Kyle Dubas is such an idiot. What an overpay this was by Dubas. But because it's the Lightning, we're like, hold on a second. They see something that we don't see. It's like Belichick and the Patriots. Wait, Belichick's cutting this guy? He must see something that we don't, right?
But to that, I say, do people learn that you could say these guys are in the benefit of the doubt?
Yeah. And
And
that's
the Leafs
fair.
haven't earned the benefit of
That
the
is
doubt with
totally
fuck all.
fair. Like
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, their whole front office, Julian Breezewa and John Cooper and everyone there, right? Like that entire organization has earned the benefit of the doubt. But I think both things can be true. Like, sure, maybe they see something in Tanner Jeannot that Nashville didn't see, that other teams around the league don't see. But they also traded a first, second, third, fourth round pick, fifth round pick, and Cal Foot for him, for a player who is a bottom six forward at this point. And again, maybe they think he's going to be a top six forward, but that's still a lot to give up. And in a few years from now, you think the Leafs don't have any draft picks. Have you seen Tampa Bay? Do they they have nothing? Yeah. Nothing in the cupboard in terms of draft picks. And maybe they don't give a shit because they've already won their cups and they're still competing for cups, but man, that is a big price for Tanner Jeannot.
I'd love to see be a fly on the wall for the talks of trading away picks for these organizations, because we've gone over on the show what these picks are actually worth and the odds. But I would like to know the real and true value that teams put on them and sort of their long-term outlook. I'd like to know the plan in Tampa. If it's okay, we have this many guys locked in, so a guy who's picked in the first round, let's say he'll be in the lineup hopefully in 3 years. Are we covered anyway? So it's okay. And if we're not covered, we need to keep that pick and plan that way. People forget too, you can trade down. You can trade if you have 2/5 or something, or if you have, I shouldn't say that. No, if you have a fourth, you can trade it for 2/5. Do that. And it's not really that much of a deal. So you can get picks. There's other way to get players, but I'm sure a lot of teams too, they just look at it and they look at their lineup and they say, we'll worry about that later. We'll 100% just worry about that later, because we can't think about 5 years from now. Who knows what's going to happen in 5 years? And again, there's a cap. I think what this all comes down to, all these discussions that we have about these deals these teams make and how they approach different things, whether it's trading, whether it's drafting, it all comes back to me that we have a cap. I think sometimes people look at these deals in sort of the pre-cap way. Well, oh, they gave up a lot to get that. Well, if you're a team willing to spend to the cap, I mean, you can get look at the Leafs in recent years, signing guys like Bunting and Kasha and Kampf. They fill their lineup with capable players. Guys like Ilya Mikheyev, you gone from Russia, you put him in the lineup. So I'd love to hear these talks on how these teams are approaching it and the true factual value they put on the picks, in the way of, we are willing to give up this pick if it makes us X level better, and then different picks to different players, and if they have exact finite models as to what's worth it in terms of underlying numbers, and if we can re-sign that guy. So interesting stuff, man. And that's why, again, how I don't like to criticize these teams, because we only see it from the outside, right? We'll look at a team and say, wow, how can they trade away their next 2 first-round picks? Then you look at it and they know, okay, well, their last 2 second-round picks, they project as bottom 6 forwards because they're doing very well and their scouting staff really believes in them. It's okay, now we can trade away that pick because we have guys locked up and we're confident we have these guys coming in. So fun stuff.
And I'm sure Tampa has done exactly that. You just outlined.
Course.
They've gone over everything. They've gone over all the angles. This is a smart organization. I do think it was an overpay, and I do think they even overpaid to a certain extent for Brandon Hagel last year. But again, the Hagel thing is working out, and I'm sure they're going to probably find a way to make the Jeannot thing work out. But I do believe it was a little bit of an overpay. And when you look at their cap sheet, they have a lot of guys locked up long-term now.
Exactly.
Kucherov, Point, Cirelli, Nick Paul, Victor Hedman has only a couple more years after this, but Sergachev is under contract. Eric Chernak, they have a lot of guys locked up for a long time. Vasilevsky. So they have their core, and not even just their core of elite players. They have their secondary core locked up for a long time too.
Fuck.
So I think this team is just comfortable with, those 8 to 10 guys that they have locked up long term, and they're just going to go to battle year in and year out with that same group of players.
Yeah, what you accomplish when you do that, and this is a bravo to the Tampa Bay Lightning, you guarantee competitiveness. They've guaranteed competitiveness with the guys they have locked up, so it gives them leeway to make other moves and not have to worry about trading away something that could work out to something that is strong, right?
Yeah, it's interesting how these guys do business because not a lot of teams operate in the same way, and they've been to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, and hopefully not a 4th. Hopefully they lose to the Leafs in the first round.
Yeah.
But we'll deal with that, Lepore. We still have a little bit of time until that happens, and we're all shitting ourselves.
Yeah, hopefully they show up
Lightning in the first round again.
Hopefully they show up like they did last night against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, hopefully.
Exactly.
Not gonna happen.
No, we all know it's going 7 games. Leaves Tampa. We all know it's happening. But we'll talk about that on a future show. Lepore, is there anything else you want to get off your chest before we wrap up this podcast?
Just hoping it keeps going, Bruno. Like I said, 3 straight wins since my wife went into labor. So feeling good, even though I'm on no sleep. Buds are putting wins on the board. Hopefully they keep going on this road trip. Hopefully Matthews can keep his scoring going and more wins. And again, like as I just mentioned, Tampa lost last night. So the only thing this team really has to play for at this point is home ice advantage. So that's got to be the focus. And let's get more wins. And I'm excited to find out what the Leafs are going to add. And I say that in a way that is expecting the Leafs to add. If you're listening, we're going to add guys. So
Lepore, since your wife went into labor, the Leafs are 3-0 and have outscored their opponents 13-5. Numbers don't lie, man. The numbers don't lie. What a heater. And it's all because of your family, Lepore.
Yeah. Actually,
the only explanation.
We're going to get cheesy now. Last night was the first time. So on the couch, put my feet up on the table, and I held her in my arms while I watched the Leafs. It was her first Leafs game. I don't know where I got it. I had like this Leafs toque, this like baby toque. I put it on her head, sent it to the people I love so they could get a cute photo of my daughter watching the Leafs. And yeah, they won. So, and it was a great win. We didn't really talk about how good the Leafs looked last night.
Yeah, they were awesome last night.
Friedman stole my line. I was watching them play. I'm like, I'm going to call them the Harlem Globetrotters on tomorrow's podcast. Then Friedman said it. Their stars were just
they were
awesome.
Buzzing.
They could have scored 10 goals last night. Well, yeah, what a performance, honestly.
Yeah, like the Leafs went down 1-0 early in that game, and we'll wrap up the podcast. But then they just dominated. After going down 1-0, it was complete domination. Samsonov was locked in. And if they can continue playing like that, because they got some tough games coming up here. And I don't know how really tough these are because the Pacific Division kind of sucks, in my opinion. But they continue their Western road trip against Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and then they end the road trip back east against the Devils.
Okay, it's interesting.
So
could go either way. Yeah, it's interesting.
So some tough games in there: Edmonton, Calgary, New Jersey, and then they play Edmonton again on March 11th. So they play Edmonton twice over their next 5.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't played Edmonton in forever. Now that you mention it, have we played them? We played them this year, though.
No, we haven't.
We haven't. Yeah. After I said that, I was
yet.
Like, yeah, because I guess the 2 times, the home and away in the West. Yeah, what am I talking about? But yeah,
remember how many times we got so sick of it during the bubble season when they played Edmonton? Like, what was it, 10 times or whatever in the Canadian division?
I heard Tyler Toffoli in an interview. And he was talking about, playing for Montreal at the time and like how many times they played the Leafs and they played them in the playoffs. And he said was it him or Suzuki? I forget. I think it was Toffoli. One of the two just straight out said it got fucking boring going to the same arena over and over. It was hard to get motivated.
Yeah, those teams played each other like 17 times that season.
Yeah, brutal.
It's just insane. Regular season and playoffs combined. But yep, we all know at this point it's going to be Leafs and Tampa in the first round, and we still have a few weeks to mentally and physically prepare for that series and what's to come. But that's going to do it for episode 94, the Sergei Berzin episode of the Gluttons for Punishment podcast. Once again, if you are a new listener or you're a longtime listener and you haven't done this yet, we would really appreciate it if you give us a 5-star rating and review on either Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching us on YouTube, we would love you so much, honestly. If you just smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, ring the notification bell so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is posting some new content. So that's going to do it. Go Leafs, go. Hopefully they finish this road trip strong after they started it with a win over the Kraken. And we'll be back next week to break it all down. So have a good one. Go Leafs, go. And we will see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.